All right, picture this. In one corner, there's the polished SaaS founder, fresh off a $10 million seed round, juggling investor calls and sprint planning sessions while munching on catered poke bowls. In the other corner, an indie hacker in swim trunks typing out bug fixes from a beach bar in Bali, grinning over their first $1,000 in MRR like they just hit the jackpot. Different uniforms, different rules, same mission. Build something that lasts and pays. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just some startup bar fight over whose hustle is hotter. This is a dead serious face-off between two wildly different ways to build a business and a life. One path is all in on speed, scale, and surrendering control in exchange for a shot at that generational wealth jackpot. The other's all about freedom, ownership, and making just enough money to never sit through a corporate all hands again. For years, the Silicon Valley formula was gospel: raise fast, grow faster, pray for an exit. But now, founders are ripping that playbook in half. Bootstrapping isn't just back, it's evolving. People are chasing profit over hype, sustainability over sizzle. And frankly, they're doing it without begging a single VC for a seat at the table. So here's the matchup: cash-fueled SaaS machines versus lean, scrappy indie builders. We're breaking down who moves faster, who builds smarter, who earns more, and who actually sleeps at night. The stakes: your time, your freedom, your future. SaaS founder versus indie hacker. Gloves on, let's see who's still standing in 2025. Every startup has to start somewhere, and that somewhere usually begins with a half-baked idea scribbled on a napkin or a Google Doc titled Brainstorm V3 Final for Real. But how founders get to that idea, that's where the real difference starts. Let's talk about the venture-backed crew first. These folks treat ideation like a military operation. Nothing's casual. It's not, hey, I noticed this annoying problem. It's, let me map out the total addressable market in a Google sheet that looks like it could crash a NASA server. Their goal isn't just solving something annoying, it's chasing a $1 billion outcome. If an idea doesn't scream, we can IPO in 6 years, it gets tossed. So the search for the big idea becomes this calculated dance. Months of research, dozens of customer interviews, pitch decks crafted like Oscar-worthy screenplays. They're not just building a product, they're reverse engineering a story that makes VCs say, take my money. You'll hear acronyms like TAM, SAM, SOM flying around like confetti at a growth hacker's wedding. The upside: that kind of structure weeds out weak concepts and forces clarity from day one. The downside: it's slow, painfully slow, and half the time, the founder ends up chasing some bland, soulless opportunity they don't even care about just because it checks the right boxes for investors. Passion, optional; scalability, mandatory. Meanwhile, the indie hackers over here doing the digital equivalent of garage banding, except with code. They're not staring at market maps, they're scratching their own itch. Found a friction point in their own life? Cool, they're building something to fix it. Then launching it with a single tweet and a Notion-built landing page that says, I made this. Want to try it? This is where micro SaaS shines. Tiny, weird, hyper-focused ideas that only make sense to a niche audience. A Chrome extension for funeral directors, a CRM just for dog trainers, a Google Docs plugin that does one thing incredibly well. Ideas that would get a SaaS investor to laugh you out of the room. And yet, some of these go on to make $5,000, $10,000, even $50,000 a month. Quietly, consistently. No billion-dollar market needed, just a small group of people screaming, finally someone built this. It's messy, it's fast, and it's usually launched way before it's ready. But that's the point. Indie hackers get their product in people's hands fast, gather real feedback, and iterate on the fly. No red tape, no investor approval, just you, your users, and your code. It's scrappy as hell, and that's what makes it work. Of course, there's risk here too. Sometimes they build something super niche that no one else actually wants, or they validate too fast based on 3 Reddit comments and a gut feeling and end up chasing a dead end. Not every itch is worth scratching. Not every problem deserves a product. But if we're talking about momentum, if we're talking about who's shipping, testing, and learning before the other guys finish their SWOT analysis, it's no contest. One side's still fiddling with their market slide. The other's already got a landing page, an MVP, and 5 paying customers. Point goes to the indie hacker. They're out there launching while the big money founder is still arguing about which vertical to target. Agility beats analysis paralysis every time. Ideas are cute and all, but without cash, they're just digital daydreams with a domain name. So now we hit the part where dreams meet bank accounts, or don't. This is where we separate the bootstrappers from the pitch deck poets. Starting with our venture-backed founder, their life turns into Shark Tank, minus the cameras and with way more rejection. The second they've got a prototype or even just a solid Figma mockup, they're out shaking hands, booking coffee meetings, rehearsing their 8-minute pitch like it's a TED Talk. Raising money becomes the job. Their deck gets more love than the product. If they land it, jackpot. Seed rounds in the millions. Now they've got hiring power, can light money on fire with paid ads, and maybe even snag that overpriced SaaS billboard near the airport. The goal? Move fast, burn money faster, and dominate the market before anyone else notices what you're doing. It's business as speed running, but that money comes with strings, thick, high-tension, investor-grade strings. The second they cash the check, they're handing over control. Tiny pieces at first, then bigger chunks with every round. Before they know it, they've got a board to answer to, monthly growth targets that defy physics, and a co-founder whose full-time role has quietly become head of fundraising forever. It's not a business anymore. It's a financial pressure cooker strapped to a rocket. And guess what? Most rockets blow up. The numbers aren't pretty. Most of these companies either die quietly or get sold for scrap. That unicorn dream, 1 in 100. Maybe. So sure, that millions in funding story looks flashy on LinkedIn, but behind the scenes, it's Red Bull, burnout, and a Slack full of investor check-ins. Now, swing over to the indie hackers side. Their approach to money? Bootstrap everything, no rounds, no board, just grit, ramen, and Stripe notifications. Every expense is personal. The ad budget is whatever's left after rent. The team is them. The goal isn't hockey stick growth, it's survival first, then profitability, then peace of mind. They keep 100% of the business and answer to nobody, but the people actually paying them, customers. That's their secret weapon. No need for a billion-dollar market. If they can hit $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month in recurring revenue, they're free. Maybe not yacht free, but definitely live wherever you want and never go to a meeting again, free. Take someone who built a tool for vet clinics of all things. It hit 6,000 MRR in 12 weeks, not by pitching VCs, but by solving a real problem for people who were ignored by every shiny startup out there. No runway, no board slides, just problem, solution, Stripe. That being said, it's not exactly smooth sailing. Growth is slow, painfully slow, sometimes comically slow. You see a killer opportunity, but you've got $112 in the business account and a checkout cart full of expired hopes and dreams. There's no magic funding round to bail you out. Everything is self-powered. You are the growth engine. You are the customer success team. You are also probably still debugging that one button that refuses to work on mobile Safari, and the risk is personal. If it flops, it's your money, your time, your stress. No soft landing or golden parachute, just a cold email inbox and some hard lessons. So, what's the better path here? It depends on your appetite for pressure and your definition of success. The VC track is a high-stakes gamble where the payout is giant, but so is the crash. One wrong move, one missed quarter, and you're toast. Meanwhile, the indie hacker builds something real, sustainable, and sane. Might not get them a private jet, but it will get them a good night's sleep. In a time where actual profit is the new power move, the indie approach doesn't just make sense, it makes money. It's built for resilience, control, and actually keeping what you earn. No investors, no dilution, no circus, just freedom bought with effort and consistency. So, if we're talking about financial models that don't eat founders alive, this round goes to the indie hacker, no question. All right, the idea is locked in. The money, either raised or scraped together. Now comes the real test. Can you actually build the thing? This is where we separate the architects from the keyboard warriors. The venture-backed founder has the budget of a small nation and builds like it. Step 1, assemble the Avengers. Product managers, designers, front-end engineers, back-end engineers, DevOps, QA, compliance, legal, HR. Basically, if there's a LinkedIn job title for it, it's on the team. This isn't a startup. It's a mini corporation with snacks. Their mantra, build it once, build it right, build it big. They're not shipping a product, they're crafting infrastructure. Think of it like constructing a battleship, built for scale, fortified for war, and able to take on 1 million users without flinching. Everything's formalized. They live in Jira. Agile sprints are gospel, daily stand-ups, weekly check-ins, roadmaps that stretch into next year. No one touches the code until 5 meetings and a legal review say it's cool. This approach has firepower. You get bulletproof software. You bake in security and compliance from day one. You plan for scale before a single customer shows up. The polished, enterprise-grade feel, that's what makes Fortune 500 companies sign 6-figure contracts. This is how you build the next Salesforce or HubSpot. But here's the catch. It's slow, like tectonic plate slow. That first usable version might not see the light of day for a year. Decisions take forever. Everyone's protecting their turf. The roadmap starts looking more like a hostage negotiation than a plan. By the time something ships, the customer's needs may have already moved on. Now cut to the indie hacker. It's just them, a laptop, a problem, and maybe a coffee shop with decent Wi-Fi. No organizational chart, no meetings, no Monday morning PowerPoint, just straight up building. They're running on caffeine, stubbornness, and maybe a $19 a month Notion template. Their goal? Ship fast. Forget the battleship. They're building a speedboat, fast, focused, and just good enough to prove it floats. They obsess over that one feature that fixes one specific pain. Everything else is noise. They're using no-code tools like Bubble or hammering together a lean stack in Laravel or Next.js, whatever gets them from idea to live in under a week. The feedback loop is insane. They tweet the idea on Monday, launch the MVP on Thursday, start getting real user feedback by the weekend. If something's broken, they push a fix before anyone can even screenshot the bug. There's no bureaucracy, just an indie hacker and their users in a constant back and forth building dance. But it's not all speedboats and sunshine. The first version, usually rough. UI might look like it came from 2012. Bugs? Plenty. And when you're the entire team, you are the bottleneck. You're also the person fixing servers, answering support tickets, writing copy, and Googling why your Stripe webhook broke at 3 a.m. And tech debt? It piles up faster than dishes in a college apartment. You're not building for the next decade. You're building to see if anyone even wants what you made, which is fine until your side project blows up and suddenly you're scaling spaghetti code. Still, in this era, speed kills. And indie hackers have speed down to a science. While the big company is still arguing about whether to use React or Vue, the indie hacker is already cashing their first Stripe payout. The ability to launch fast, talk directly to users, and improve based on actual feedback, it's not just efficient, it's a massive edge. So in this round, the suit and sprint method has its perks. You get serious software with serious polish. But it's a long, expensive climb, and you might never reach the top. The indie hacker, they might stumble a bit at first, but they're already halfway up the hill before the other side laces their shoes. Which raises the question for you. What kind of builder are you? Do you want to be the general of an army or a one-person navy carving your own route? Take a minute at the end and drop your answer in the comments. Now let's get back into it, because the fight's just getting started. You could build the most mind-blowing product in the game, clean UI, solves a real problem, even has that little confetti burst when someone signs up. But if no one knows it exists, you might as well be coding in a bunker. This is where things get gritty. It's growth season. Start with the SaaS founder. They've got VC money burning a hole in their pocket and a board breathing down their neck. The marching orders are simple: grow or die. Doesn't matter how, just hit the numbers. And the go-to move? Build the biggest, loudest, most expensive growth engine they can afford. They go all in on marketing. SEO teams, paid ads, brand consultants, email drip campaigns, webinars, white papers, probably a podcast or two. There's a budget for Google Ads that looks like the GDP of a small country, and that's just the start. A sales team rolls in, SDRs blasting cold emails like confetti, AEs running smooth demos, contracts flying. The whole machine runs on numbers: CAC, LTV, MQLS, funnel conversion rates. If it moves, they track it. This approach is built to scale. Feed the machine more cash, get more customers. It's clean, it's measured, it works. When the stars align, this is how a company goes from $1 million in revenue to 100 million without blinking. But there's a price. That machine is expensive, fragile, and always hungry. Miss your numbers for a few quarters, and suddenly that pipeline starts to look more like a cliff. If funding dries up, game over. And because everything's optimized for efficiency and scale, it's easy to drift further and further away from the humans you're actually trying to serve. You're not talking to users, you're targeting segments. Now swing over to the indie hacker side of town. Totally different ballgame. No sales team, no ad spend, just a builder with a product, an internet connection, and a personality. When there's no money to burn, you learn to market like a street magician, pure creativity and charisma. Their biggest advantage? Building in public. They share it all: the bugs, the wins, the why did I think this was a good idea moments. Every post, every tweet, every reply on Reddit becomes part of the story. And people love a good story. You're not just another tool in the feed, you're a person they're rooting for. Instead of spending thousands on clicks, they write blog posts that actually help people. Not keyword soup, real content. They answer questions in forums, they build mini fan bases in Slack group, they launch early and often, and when they get feedback, they use it fast. Product Hunt becomes a launch pad. X becomes their press release. Their community becomes their growth engine. And it works. Look at someone like Tim Benetto of Pally. He didn't explode out the gate, his first launch fizzled, but he stayed in the game, listened to his users, fixed the right stuff, and eventually hit $85,000 in MRR. No growth hacks, no paid blitz, just persistence and a good product. Of course, this kind of growth isn't all upside. It's slower, it's messier. Social algorithms are fickle, and building trust takes time. You can't just double your audience by flipping a switch, and not every founder wants to post their revenue screenshots and personal doubts on the internet. Still, it's working. More than ever, users care about who is behind the product. They want transparency, realness, and someone who actually gives a damn. The indie hacker approach might not move at lightning speed, but it builds something way stronger than traffic. It builds trust. Meanwhile, that traditional growth engine is starting to show some cracks. Ads are expensive, people are tuning out. Big budget funnels feel impersonal. The old tricks aren't hitting like they used to. So if we're talking about resilience, growth that doesn't collapse the minute your funding disappears or Meta changes the algorithm, the indie hacker's scrappy, story-first, relationship-driven playbook is looking pretty genius. In a world where connection wins, one person being authentic can beat 10 people optimizing landing pages. That's the real flex, and that's another point on the board for the indie hacker. All right, that's 4 rounds down. SaaS founders might have the money and muscle, but indie hackers are on a hot streak. Stick around, things are about to get personal. So we've talked about ideas, money, product, and growth. But here's the real question. What kind of life do you actually get for all that hustle? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about MRR charts and dashboards, it's about what your Monday morning feels like. And this next round hits different. It's the lifestyle round. Let's start with the SaaS founder. On paper, the gig sounds elite. CEO title, check. Big team, check. Press features, swag, networking events where people pretend they know what each other's startups do, triple check. And yeah, If everything goes perfectly, there's the promise of a monster payday. Walk away forever money. But behind the filtered LinkedIn posts is a brutal truth. The moment you cash that VC check, you're not really the boss anymore. You've got a board, investors, expectations, and a to-do list that never ends. Your calendar becomes a stress puzzle filled with investor calls, all-hands meetings, and strategy sessions you secretly wish you could cancel. You spend more time managing people than building the thing you actually care about. It's basically a treadmill powered by pressure. One founder called it the deferred life plan, and it fits. You sacrifice now for the dream of someday. Vacations, hobbies, time with your kids, all penciled in after the exit, that is if the exit ever comes. And in the meantime, it's 12-hour days, Slack pings at midnight, and burnout so normalized, it's basically a startup rite of passage. You're building a rocket ship, sure, but you're strapped to the thing while it's shaking apart during takeoff. Now, swing to the other side, the indie hacker. Here, the vibe is completely different. This path is built on one promise: freedom, total control over your time, your decisions, your lifestyle. Want to work from a beach in Thailand? Cool. Feel sharp at midnight and dead at 9 a.m.? Nobody cares. Your business, your rules. This isn't about becoming the next tech mogul, it's about building something profitable and sustainable that fits into your life instead of consuming it. And the perks? They're legit. No board meetings, no HR fires to put out, no fake offsites that are just overpriced group therapy with PowerPoint. You're free to design every part of your work life exactly how you want it. Even better, you keep every dollar. You make $4,000 a month, that's your $4,000. And if you're smart with location and expenses, that can be a game changer. You don't need to hit 8 figures to feel like you won. The finish line is way closer and way more realistic. But here's the trade-off. It can get lonely. You're the only one in the trenches, no co-founder to brainstorm with, no team to take over when you crash. Every decision, from pricing to which email tool to use, is all on you. And while freedom is incredible, it comes with a side of isolation and mental fatigue that can sneak up fast. If you get sick, support tickets pile up. If you take time off, the business doesn't magically keep running. And early on, the money can be inconsistent. You might go months without paying yourself. That self-reliance, it's a superpower and a weight. So, this round hits deep. It's not about who looks cooler on Twitter, it's about what kind of life you want to wake up to. The VC founder is swinging for legacy, for impact, for wealth that rewrites their family tree, but they're trading years of freedom to get there. The indie hacker is optimizing for life right now, chasing a version of success that fits their day-to-day, not just their bank account. And in a world that's slowly starting to value sanity over scale, the edge goes to the founder who can enjoy the ride while building the thing. That's the kind of flex that doesn't require a pitch deck. Call it another round for the indie hacker. We've made it final round. After all the hustle, building, pitching, shipping, and stress snacking, what does winning even look like? What's the actual point of all this? Because if we're going to obsess over ARR and CAC and launch metrics, we better know what we're chasing. Round 6 is all about the end game. And spoiler alert, the 2 players aren't even aiming at the same scoreboard. Let's start with the SaaS founder. Their finish line, huge, loud, and probably covered in confetti. The big acquisition, the IPO, the keynote speech with custom slides and a standing ovation. This is the moonshot, the moment when years of chaos transform into headlines and generational wealth. For them, the prize is legacy. They're building a brand, a company, a machine that hopefully runs long after they're gone. Winning means market dominance. It means having your product become a verb. It means your startup ends up in business textbooks. Impact, influence, and a whole lot of employees with your logo on their hoodies. And honestly, that's incredible. But it's also rare, like lightning strike rare. For every founder who makes it to the IPO bell, there are thousands who crash somewhere along the way. Maybe they get acquired early for pennies. Maybe they flame out. Maybe they raise round after round and still never break through. The VC game is a tournament. Only a few get the spotlight, everyone else gets, we gave it our best drinks. Now let's look at the indie hacker's endgame. And it's not an exit, it's an entrance into a life they don't want to run from. There's no big stage, no stock ticker, just peace, flexibility, money that lands in their account every month without selling their soul or their weekends. Here, success doesn't look like a headline. It looks like sleeping in on a Tuesday or logging off for a 2-week trip without asking permission. It looks like spending the afternoon coding something fun instead of prepping for another board meeting. The indie hacker's version of winning is deceptively quiet and wildly satisfying. They're not trying to win capitalism, they're trying to win their own time back. And yeah, a business pulling in $10,000 or $30,000 a month might not land you on the cover of Forbes, but it can buy freedom, security, and a life most people daydream about from their cubicle. And here's the kicker, this version of success, it's actually reachable. You don't need millions in funding, a dozen full-time employees, or a viral launch. You need a good product, a real problem to solve, and a commitment to keep showing up. That's it. You don't have to hit a home run to feel like you've made it. A bunch of consistent singles gets the job done just fine. So, what's the score after 6 rounds? The SaaS founder's endgame is big, dramatic, and nearly mythical, but it's a high-stakes gamble where most players walk away empty-handed. The indie hacker's win is smaller, quieter, but way more likely to actually happen. It's not about conquering industries, it's about living well. Another round to the indie hacker. Now zoom out for a second, 6 rounds, and yeah, on paper, the indie hacker takes it. But here's the thing, this wasn't really about who's better, it's about trade-offs, about priorities, about you. Because this is your story to write. You might be built for the VC trenches, raising big money, managing teams, going for that outsized impact, and if that's your jam, go all in. Just know what you're signing up for. The pressure is real, but so are the rewards for the few who make it. But if your goal is freedom, control, building something that supports your life instead of swallowing it whole, then the indie path is looking real good right now. Tools are better, audiences are everywhere. You don't need permission from anyone. One person with a laptop can now do what used to take a whole team, and that changes everything. So here's the real win. Understanding both paths, owning the choice, and building something that makes sense for your actual life, not someone else's highlight reel. Your turn. Are you gunning for scale with VC money or quietly building your empire indie style? And what's the one thing you're stuck on right now? Drop it in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Let's figure it out together. Then go build something that actually fits the life you want to live. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.